Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you.
Congratulations on the series.
Thank you.
So how did you get involved? What was the first step in this whole project?
Well, I was just wrapping up my final season on Gotham and looking for whatever my next project was going to be. And Damon, our creator, and the people over at Muse and Rogers approached me and offered me this amazing role as a lead in the show. And after having several conversations with them and talking through the concept of the series and asking if I could be an executive producer and them saying yes, that was it. I was on board.
That's fantastic. Mm-hmm. Is this the first thing you've executive produced?
First thing.
Wow.
First time I produced at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what's that like, coming onto a show where you get to have that, say?
It's great. I think sometimes they give it to an actor as more of a vanity card and they don't necessarily give you a lot of leeway to express your opinions. But I actually found on this that they were really open to hearing my ideas and, just certain script ideas or wardrobe ideas or, for me, the day-to-day on the set, just talking through things that were working and not working. They were always really open to hearing what I had to say, and that felt really new for me. Not used to that.
Right, especially coming from a project as huge as Gotham.
Right, yeah.
To something this kind of, so much more nuanced. I guess.
That was much more of a machine, and you're part of quite a large ensemble cast, and I came onto that show when it was already deep into its run, second season, so, it was a 90-day experience to be a part of a show that, from day one. I wasn't part of the development process of this show, but as soon as I came on board, then we really started to get into the conversations about the role.
So, for your perspective, how would you describe her? She's quite, there's a lot of broad strokes and a lot of really fine detail. Mm-hmm. What's important to you about her?
I think that she's really smart. Mm-hmm. She's tough. But she's also really empathetic to people, really compassionate, and most importantly, she's resilient. She makes this really horrible mistake in the very first episode that has massive repercussions for her, and so really the whole series is watching her overcome those and work through those struggles, and see if she comes out the other side or not. And she's very tenacious. And
I love that she's a rookie to the homicide department, but she's not a rookie.
No,
which is nice.
Right. She's new to being a detective, but she has been a cop for some time, and she very much grew up in that world because her father was a cop and was killed in the line of duty, and her father was very well loved on the squad. So she has really big shoes to fill as well. And
did you find it interesting? You've gone from the villain to the cop. What's that like? Is that a nice switch, I'm sure?
Yeah, Tabitha was so specific. She was all about a specific style and flair. We spent as much time thinking about the aesthetics of the look of that character as anything else. Right. And Kate couldn't be anything. It's minimal makeup, very neutral wardrobe, everything was sort of pared down, and it was much more focused on who she was.
Right.
Yeah.
And the background, I've only seen the first episode. I'm assuming that we're going to get more of that background through the season. Is that true?
Yeah, of who she is. And her father. The something that we really explore in depth is her relationship with her mother. They have a very tense, strained relationship. Her mother is running for mayor, and Kate has always blamed her mother for their parents' divorce. And, she idolized her father, and her father's dead. And so, and her mother is, wishes she wasn't in such a tough job. I think she wants to protect her out of love. And she thinks of the homicide department as very much a boys' club and doesn't think that Kate belongs there. And so, they butt heads a lot. And you find out a lot of stuff about their relationship over the course of the show.
And the whole conversation too about, I guess it's that inner city kind of feel, but at the same time it does feel Canadian to me.
Oh, good.
That's what I love.
We weren't trying to hide that it was Canadian. I think almost every show that I've been on that has shot in Canada
right.
is desperately going out of its way to try and hide that they're shooting in Canada. And it was nice to finally just embrace the feel and look of Vancouver and really celebrate the beauty of the city.
And so how much will we see that, we're going to get the fact that she's a woman in a field that unfortunately has up until now been too dominated by men? Is that a conversation?
Yeah, it is. We don't dwell on that as much. It's not a huge story point. I mean, she certainly runs into little bits of it. But actually, I feel like the men on our show are like the male characters are quite progressive, actually.
Yes.
The only real issues she runs into are with her partner, Nolan. And it's more because he thinks she's there solely because of nepotism and doesn't deserve to be there. So he spends a whole series trying to kind of make her prove herself to him, and she doesn't like that, and so they butt heads as well.
I also like that there's the talk so far that I've seen about, dirty cops, but at the same time the cops don't come across as, like you see some of those shows, it's like, oh no, every other cop is dirty.
Yeah.
This show feels more like it's a bit more honest about, there might be some bad guys.
Almost accidental or more human in the way of especially with Kate, making a mistake and then kind of not believing, like being in shock that you made that mistake. I think actually she has good intentions. I think they all have good intentions and just feel like they're doing the right thing. And I'm glad we approach it from that side. Because, when the villain is too on the nose, then it's not as relatable. And
what's the course of the show going to be like for this first season? What are some of the standout elements, I guess? Yeah,
I mean, I think what I love about our show is it is a procedural, so you can watch it. If you start watching at episode 4, you can follow the case of the week, whatever it may be. But that really our show is rooted in the characters. So you're following the arcs of these people throughout the 8 episodes and watching them grow and figure out who they are and come to terms with themselves. So that's great. It marries those two things really well, I think.
Does she have things to come to terms with that we're going to see across the season then?
Yeah, so many things. I mean, kind of the things we just already talked about, her family relationships, her relationships with the people in the department, trying to prove not only to everyone there, but also to herself that she is, in fact, capable of being there and holding this position, even though she made such a huge mistake. And there's a whole element, too, where she speaks to a therapist, which is nice because she's quite... she doesn't really have anybody to talk to. It's hard for her to be vulnerable. Right. And so you see her sit down with their therapist every week, too, and kind of talk through a lot of her issues.
Well, I really like, too, that first episode has so many pivot points that you don't expect. Yeah. And on top of that, and it's pretty dark, really, but on top of that, I really, there's, I don't think I usually care about the person who dies, but there's certainly someone in this first episode that I'm like, oh, that hurts. Like that's a tough scene.
You don't see it coming. Yeah. You don't see it coming, and there's very much a familial relationship between her and her partner in the first episode. Right. So I'm glad that came across because Lachlan and I worked to make that feel organic and natural. Yeah.
It's fantastic. It's a great. Yeah, the first episode really sets up so much.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot. We've jammed a lot into 8 episodes. It's I love too. Every case feels really unique and like something I haven't seen on TV before. Like they're not just run of the mill cases. They deal with a lot of social issues and cultural issues too. So
that's awesome.
That's cool.
Well, the music too. I like that there was a little music element to this first episode too.
Yeah, I mean that was all Damon. Damon is a huge music lover, and so he wanted to find a way to incorporate music in an interesting way instead of just having it be background.
That's cool.
So the first case, there's a cover of Long Black Veil that's tied into the crime. But then throughout the rest of the series, every single episode has a song tied to it that plays in the background. Yeah, but you wouldn't, it's not on the note, like you wouldn't necessarily know unless you were paying attention to it. So for people that are like, like those kind of Easter egg things, you might be able to listen to the whole song on your own and realize that it correlates to a case that we're solving, which is kind of cool.
So, in terms of wish list if you get the second season. Mm-hmm. What do you have a wish list of things that you're like, okay, now here's what I want to do next?
I mean, we jam-packed so much into the first season. I'm dying to know what happens to her next. I was thinking I would love to see her, like, lighten up a little bit in season 2 because she really goes through the ringer in the first season. Okay. And she's, really emotionally drained by the end of it. So I would love to see her, like, maybe have more scenes with Meg, who's Luvia's character, and see that female relationship explored, and maybe, like, see a bit of a lighter side of Kate.
Cool.
That'd be cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.